What's up, everybody? We are live. This is the CrossFit Open 19.1 breakdown. And can I get a hallelujah for the tall person workout? I feel like they could not have made a better tall person workout in CrossFit in the Open. So, as somebody who is a tall person, I'm really excited about this. This workout, a combination of probably the only two movements that are really beneficial for tall people. So we're gonna let some more people join in. Hopefully you guys can leave comments and I can see them. I'm trying to find the best way to do that, but yeah, so go ahead and drop some comments if you guys have questions or whatever. But a lot of people are saying, you know what, this workout's just, pace, but don't pace too much. Go hard, but don't go too hard, and don't grip the rower handle too much. And yeah, there's a lot of that. This is a pretty basic workout with regards to that. But I will say that one of the things that I do want to point out is some of the movement efficiencies that we can gain. When there's only two movements, movement efficiency or inefficiencies can really hammer you. And so we want to make sure we're taking that into account. So let's jump right into it. I want to keep this video pretty short and leave some time for questions afterward. And of course, you guys who are watching this live, there will be an article where I break all the stuff down written out, and then I'll attach this video afterward. 15-minute AMRAP, 19 wall balls, 19 calorie row. Pretty interesting that they didn't have a different row distance for the women, but the women's ball height is shorter, so it kind of works out to be pretty similar. I think that's pretty smart. Overall, obviously, have a pacing plan. I'm a big proponent of pacing your workouts. You guys don't want to just go by feel. If you go by feel in the beginning of the workout, what's going to happen is you're going to get punished. It's going to feel really good, and then as the workout goes on progressively, you're going to end up slowing way down. It's like sprinting the first lap on a mile around a track. If you sprint the first quarter mile, then the rest of it's not going to go well, and you're not going to get your best time. So we want to make sure we have a good pacing plan. I'll bring up the pacing chart in a minute. But here's a little preview of it. So we can talk about that later on. So 15 minutes will feel very long. I don't think I need to tell any of you veterans out there that that's what's going to happen. Is that 15 minutes is not a short workout when it's just wall ball and rowing. So there's a mentality here that, again, going back to following your pacing plan and not coming out too hot, and also understanding that around that 7, 8, 10 minute mark, it's going to feel like forever, and you're just going to have to tune it out. And one of the things that I do know about wall balls and rowing is that you can do more. Sometimes you're really uncomfortable and you don't want to finish that set of wall ball, but you can actually do more than you think. So be ready to push through some of that discomfort and really go into the pain cave and push through, especially when it's on that last round or that last few minutes. On that note, I think a lot of people though will go too hard on the row or the wall ball because, again, maybe they're not looking at their pacing schedule, and then they'll end up walking and resting too much in between sets, and it's that transition time where a lot of people lose a lot of time. So one of the things that I really want you guys to do is right after you get off the rower, I don't care how bad you feel, go do a set of wall ball. I think a lot of people will plan on doing a big set of wall ball or doing the wall balls unbroken. And what happens when you do that is you get off the rower, and because you're mentally preparing for an unbroken set of wall ball, you'll take more time. And you'll sit there and you'll stand around and you'll take some breath, and then you'll pick the ball up and you'll breathe a few more times, and then you'll start your wall balls, and you're actually going to be losing a lot of time. You're better off going over and just doing 3 or 5 wall ball and then resting and seeing how you feel. And then you got smaller sets afterward. Wall balls are one of those things that don't pay a big penalty when you drop it. In fact, you actually preserve a lot of energy because you're not having to catch the ball, and then you can just squat down and throw it, which we'll talk about in a second with the wall balls. We'll talk about repeats later on. So wall balls, I've seen people debate this. The wall ball does not require you to stand up fully before you squat. Actually, the standard specifically says the wall ball starts with the hip crease below parallel and the ball, in a full squat. So technically, for a lot of people, it's good to kind of grab the ball and squat under it and kind of curl it up. So you're basically squatting down and then curling it, or kind of doing almost like a little half medicine ball squat clean before your first rep. That's going to save you a little bit of time and efficiency. So you should actually do that squat, and especially if you're breaking it up often. So if you watch some of the real go-getters go do it, they're going to do unbroken sets early on. I don't think that's the right strategy for most people. I think that if you just do, fives, or, if you do 8 and, 9 and 8 or whatever, and you just let that ball fall, and then minimum rest, like you even stop it from bouncing so you can pick it up and go into the next rep. That's one less rep if you break it in half. If you break it up into 3 or 4 sets, that's a few less negatives, and that uses less energy. And you don't really pay a big time penalty there. And the reason why we want to break it up is because the rowing, the way the calories work, the harder and faster you go, the less total work you're doing. Now it's more intense, and so you'd rather, instead of I think people get complacent on the rower and they just start pulling the handle and they just start going and they're uncomfortable, so then they slow down, and then they go and try to do a big unbroken set of wall ball. And you're better off taking a little bit more time on the wall ball and then going a little harder on the row, because when you actually look at the total amount of work being done, that's going to mean you're doing total less output, right? So that's going to save you. So I do think for most people, we're not talking about the games people, we're talking about most people breaking it up often, probably a little bit more than you think, but then really minimizing that rest. Obviously, we want to avoid no reps. Wall balls are one of those movements where it's easy to get no reps, and I think a lot of people they'll end up doing these, they'll get no reps, and then their judge or whatever will say no rep, and then they'll do another one, and the judge will say no rep, and then they'll do another one, and the judge says no rep, and they don't know why they're getting no rep, right? And the problem with that is that if you don't know why you're not getting no rep, you shouldn't keep going and doing more reps. If you get no rep and you don't know why, like if you don't know if it was depth or if it was the ball, if you know the ball didn't hit high enough, then you just got to get the ball higher on the next one. But if you don't know why, you should probably stop. Try to fix it, and then if you get another no rep, you should immediately stop and say, what am I doing wrong? You're going to get a little bit of rest. The problem with doing no reps is that it penalizes you twice. You get penalized for the time it took you to do the rep that doesn't count, and it also energy-wise, the extra rep that you're doing. And so in the case of wall balls, there's not a terrible amount of energy. It's not like a really heavy barbell movement, but again, if you keep doing them and you're still getting no reps and you don't understand what the judge needs to see, then what happens is you end up paying a much bigger penalty, and you're more tired and you're frustrated. So if you want to avoid those no reps, make sure you're going low enough. I think a lot of people will probably want to wear Oli shoes. If that helps you squat a little bit better, you can wear your Oli shoes on this workout. It's not a bad thing, even though we're not doing any Olympic lifting. But we really want to avoid those no reps because of those penalties. Now this is a big one. This is probably one of the most important parts of this video is the technique when holding the ball. And I still see this all the time in gyms where they hold the ball on the sides. So you can look, this is like a lobster, if a lobster person, I don't know if you can see this, but I try to draw the hands on the side of the ball, and people try to hold the ball and squeeze it from the sides. Well, that takes more energy, and you're not using your skeleton to hold it. So it uses more energy. And then if you think about it, if you can see that this ball is lower because you're holding the sides of the ball, where if you hold the bottom of the ball is going to move up closer to the target. And so now the ball's leaving your hands closer to the target, and it needs less energy at the top to get it over there. So holding the ball on the sides isn't a good idea. Holding the ball on the bottom is better. So keeping your hands close, keeping the elbows close, so you can create that frame and use more skeleton to hold that ball and less muscle, right? And then the other big thing is flipping the wrist at the top. This is something that a lot of people don't know, but if you flip your wrists at the top of the rep, especially if you're a taller person like me, then I don't even have to extend my arms all the way. I can get the wall ball from only going from about here, because we get a mechanical advantage. It's like a trebuchet or a catapult where we use that last little flip of the wrists, and that's going to get the ball much higher than if you use the same amount of energy and you don't, or if you're holding the sides. If you're holding the sides and you throw the ball like this, you don't get that wrist flip, and then that ball doesn't go up. So think about how you're holding the ball and try to maintain that. If you're not comfortable with that technique and you've never done it, at least try to do it for the first couple rounds when you're a little bit fresher, and it's going to save you for the later rounds. And then when you start getting all discombobulated, so just go back to your normal default. But if you can maintain that, that little bit of efficiency is really going to add up. I mean, if you think about this, if you do 5-6 rounds, you're already at 100 wall balls, and so a little bit of efficiency over 100 wall balls is really going to pay off. For the rower, it's already mentioned, faster means less distance, and so if the way the rower works is the faster you pull, the higher the calories per hour number, the shorter distance you're going to do. And it's not a huge big strategy difference when comparing to other athletes, but when comparing to your own scores, you can see that if you go a little bit harder, if you push yourself a little bit more on the row, you'll actually do less total work. And as I said earlier, that's why I feel like pacing the wall balls a little bit more is better than pacing the row. There's also, like I said, the psychology of being on the rower, in that when you're on the rower, what ends up happening is you kind of start to settle into a pace. And so you want to watch that calories per hour and make sure that you're following the pace that you set, and you're not dropping, and you're not just slowing down because you're uncomfortable or because you're tired, right? So you want to maintain that pace and try to push that pace a little bit versus it's easy to get on the rower and be like, okay, I'm gonna do unbroken wall balls and then I'll cruise the row. But if you cruise the row, you may end up rowing many more meters, so you're doing more total work, right? So we want to avoid that. I put in here stay efficient. I think a lot of people, when they get out, especially in the earlier rounds even, they'll just try to pull that rower the handle really hard. And the rower is really beautiful in the fact that it really punishes you if you have inefficiency. So if you're pulling too early with the arms, if your timing is off, it's gonna make those calories a lot harder to get than if you're efficient. So in the beginning, when you're trying to go a little bit faster, and then in the end when you're tired, still trying to maintain that efficiency. Because like I said, it really hammers you when you start to get inefficient. Now this is another little trick that a lot of people haven't probably thought about, but you can add some extra hip and arm pulls if your quads are blowing up. So if wall balls tend to blow up your legs and you end up having a lot of, your legs are blown up and you're having trouble on the rower, toward the end of that row, I wouldn't do it very much in the middle, but toward the end of that row, you can just do that. Don't bend your knees very much and just do sort of a hip hinge arm pull those last couple strokes, and that can kind of save your legs a little bit. You're going to use a little bit more glutes and a lot more arms, and that'll get you to the end. Because you kind of want to coast into that anyway, because you have to wait until 19 calories. You don't want to pull as hard as you can till 19 and then get off, right? You want to kind of pull till 17, 18, and then maybe do a couple hip hinge arm pulls just to keep the flywheel moving, and then you've already started recovering for the wall balls. And then this is something that most of you guys should know, but whenever you're starting a short, fast row, or just getting on the rower in general, you want to start with a quarter pull, a half pull, and a full pull. And you'll see experienced people do this. We're most powerful in that kind of that middle quarter, when we're really starting to extend our hips. So you start with a little quarter pull that's about kind of in the mid range. And then you open it up and you go a little bit wider, and then you do your full pull. Instead of trying to pull and get that flywheel moving right away, and using your whole body, where you're also having inefficiencies on the beginning and the end, what happens then is you're using all that inefficiency, and you're not going to get the flywheel up to speed as fast. So doing a couple short pulls, even if you don't think about quarter pull, half pull, full pull, if you just do a couple short pulls in your most powerful zone, then that's going to get the flywheel up to speed faster, and you'll start getting the calories counting a little bit faster. In the grand scheme of things, across 5 or 8 rounds, that's gonna shave off a little bit of time. It's not going to be a total game changer, but it will make a difference. So let's talk about pacing. So I'm going to transition back over to the chart here, if you guys can see that. Trying to see if you guys are having any questions, where you guys are at. So guys, if you can post them, I will see if I can see them. I'm not sure why I can't see them right now, but yeah. So if we look at this chart, what I want to point out is, and I don't think you guys can see my cursor, but what I've broken it down into is we've got a 3-round pace and then 3.5 rounds, and so you kind of pick the target that you think you're going to be going for. And one of the things that this really does is it helps you understand that if you're going really fast, if you realize, okay, I finished my first 2 rounds in 3:44. The problem is that that's like an 8-round pace, and if you know that 8 rounds is pretty aggressive for you, you probably came out too fast, so you're going to need to slow down a little bit. But the idea is you'd maybe have somebody who's separate from your judge, who's helping you stay on pace for that. Now this chart, just in the first 3 rounds, they're whole rounds, and then I broke it up into half rounds. And so So you can kind of know, okay, I need to be getting off the rower here. I need to be, getting off the wall ball here, and then that can help you pace it. The other thing I want to point out on this is that this is kind of evenly split between the rower and the wall ball, and I don't think for most people that's going to be very true. I think that most people, the row is going to take 60 to 100% more time than the wall ball. So if the wall balls were to take 45 seconds, the row might take a minute and a half, and it all depends on your strength and your abilities. But as a general sort of pacing, in the whole rounds, that pacing schedule is going to help you keep on pace, and so help you realize if you're going too fast or if you need to speed up a little bit or whatever. If it feels really easy and you're following that pace, and you're in around 3 or 4 and your target's 7 or whatever, and you're like, wow, I feel good. Now you can start to try to up the pace a little bit, and you'll know how much, because you don't want to go too aggressive on that pace. You can go just a little bit, and but again, using that pacing schedule. So again, if you're really keen on scoring well in the open, I do recommend that you have somebody helping pace you, and a second set of eyes that can give you some coaching cues and things. The judge really shouldn't be worrying about coaching you. They need to be focusing on the range of motion and the rep count. And so it's better if you can have an extra person sort of help you stay on time. But that chart will be posted in the article, so you have that to look at. From a repeat standpoint, could you repeat this one? I'm not a big fan of repeats. This one will have a lot of wall balls. Again, if you hit that 5 to 6 range, you're going to be in around 100 wall balls. But the rowing isn't going to make you terribly sore. I think this one, it'll be mentally challenging to do a repeat. But I think if you have a good pacing plan and you really stick to it, to where your pace doesn't drop off. One of the other benefits of having a pacing chart is if you have a goal of something like 6 rounds, and you were able to maintain that until your 5th round, and then you do really well, and then you get more than 6 rounds. That might be a little clue that you could maybe do better. But if your goal was 6 rounds and you were doing great on the 6-round pace until the wheels fell off, and then your last round or your last 2 rounds really start to drop off, that means that you probably started a little bit too fast. And so the pacing chart is really good because it gives you that feedback to say, should I even try it again? I stuck to this pacing schedule and it was great, and then right at the end I sped up just a little bit and I had nothing left. That's a good performance. Like I said, or I was sticking to my schedule, and then at 10 minutes I couldn't maintain it. I really started to fall off, and that means that maybe you're going a little bit too fast, especially if you were consistent across all those rounds. So if you feel like you underperformed, especially using the pacing chart, then yeah, you could repeat this one. It's not going to make you terribly sore. I don't recommend doing it 3 times, but there's not a lot going on here. It's a pretty simple workout. So again, maybe 2 times. You do it Friday, maybe Saturday, and then maybe one last time on Monday if you feel like you need to. But I will point out that that the performances on week 1 are really important because the most people are in the open, whereas in week 5, a lot of people drop off, and so there's a lot more kind of scoring opportunity because there's more people. The field is larger in those earlier weeks. And but that being said, if you start repeating workouts all the time, that ends up affecting you negatively because these workouts aren't really designed to be training. They're designed to be tests. And if you're testing these workouts 2 or 3 times a week on week 1 and week 2 and week 3, you're going to be less fit on week 3, 4, and 5 than you were in week 1. And so I feel it's more important that you try to knock it out of the park the first time, and then you maybe repeat 1 workout or 2 workouts in the entire thing, especially if they aren't ones that are going to make you terribly sore and affect the rest of your training. So